The Supreme Court wrapped up one of its most consequential terms in years on Tuesday, and the story is more complicated than any single headline can capture. Yes, the justices delivered some real setbacks to President Trump. But at the same time, the court's conservative supermajority handed down decisions that legal observers are calling generational wins, rulings that could reshape American governance for decades to come. Start with where the court said no. Chief Justice John Roberts joined two justices that Trump himself had appointed, along with all three liberal justices, to strike down the president's sweeping tariffs. That is a remarkable coalition, a court that Trump remade during his first term, turning around and voiding one of his signature economic moves. The court also struck down Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship, the long-standing constitutional guarantee that any child born on American soil is automatically a United States citizen, even if their parents are undocumented immigrants or temporary visitors. And in a third rebuke, the justices blocked Trump from immediately firing the leader of the Federal Reserve, protecting the independence of the nation's central bank. Those are meaningful losses for the president. But legal analysts urge caution before calling this a court in open revolt against Trump. Because even as justices handed him those defeats, the conservative supermajority was delivering victories that conservatives have been pursuing for a generation. The court endorsed Republican-backed efforts to lift limits on campaign financing. It expanded presidential reach over immigration policy and the federal bureaucracy. And it dealt a serious blow to the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the landmark law that reshaped American democracy after the Civil Rights Movement. The most sweeping decision came in the term's final days. In a 6-3 ruling, the conservative majority overturned a precedent that had held for 90 years, clearing the way for Trump and all future presidents to fire the heads of independent regulatory agencies over policy disagreements, even when Congress had specifically passed laws to protect those positions from political pressure. This affects agencies that oversee labor disputes, broadcast television, workplace discrimination, and large swaths of everyday American life. Whether these regulators can continue operating independently of whoever occupies the Oval Office is now very much an open question. Deepak Gupta, a plaintiff's lawyer who argues frequently before the court, offered a sharp assessment. He said the real headline is not "Court checks Trump," it is something bigger, a concentration of power toward the presidency, toward the court itself, and away from Congress, federal agencies, and ordinary voters. He warned the decisions could fundamentally change the relationship between citizens and their government. What this term reveals is a court operating on two tracks at once. On one track, it is willing to check executive overreach in specific, high-profile moments. On the other, it is methodically moving the law in a conservative direction, expanding presidential power and shrinking the independent institutions designed to restrain it. The losses Trump faced this term grabbed the headlines. The wins the conservative majority secured may matter far more when the history books are written. That is the view from Washington as this Supreme Court term comes to a close. Thanks for listening.